Attention, you're listening to The Todd Huff Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk and education. Be advised, the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. And now, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios, here's your conservative but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Yes, my friends, back at it here in the Full Suite Wealth Studios today. It is my pleasure to be back, refreshed and raring, ready to go. Lots of things, of course, have happened in our absence. I want to say thank you to Chris Dunham. I want to say thank you to Gary Varvel. I want to say thank you to Micah Clark. I want to say thank you to John Crane for all filling in for us here over the course of the past week. Again, my family and I, we were in Montana. Actually spent some time at Glacier National Park with my extended family, with my brother and sister-in-law. And so that's I want to catch up on some things here. And I also want to... three things. Number one, I want to talk about just some things that have happened since we've been gone. Number two, I'll get into this in more detail, but there's some things that I'm going to look to do a little bit differently. I think improve the content, help us to reach more people, and I think provide even more value, hopefully, to those who engage with this content. And I'll talk a little bit about Montana at the conclusion or the end of the program today, which we had a lot of fun, as I mentioned. My friends, let's be honest, when your financial world starts getting a little bit more complicated, you need more than just a one-size-fits-all approach and advice. That's where Full Suite Wealth shines. Their team specializes in working with families and individuals at your level, offering personalized guidance that goes far beyond the basics for private equity and private credit to options, strategies, and coordinated legal planning. Full Suite Wealth helps you see the big picture and make confident decisions about your legacy. It's all about having a dedicated team to guide you every step so you can focus on what matters, your family, your goals, and your future. Want real confidence in your financial life? Friends, all you got to do is hop on over to fullsuitewealth.com. Fullsuitewealth.com. Jason and his team will take very good care of you. Sharp folks provide a lot of value to those who are in need of these sorts of services. Build your legacy, secure your future. Fullsuitewealth.com. I'm going to tell you something here off the top. I told Oz this morning. Returning, I've doing this every day, I love this. I hope that you know that we've done this for 10 years now. But doing this every day, you get in a routine. And sometimes routines can be good. And sometimes routines, sometimes we got to break bad habits. But, when you get out of the routine for a week, it is a tough, it is a very well-oiled machine behind the scenes here to get things done. And it's just hard to get back into it and not have some hiccups along the way when I've been gone. So a little bit of that going on. Not a lot, but a little bit of that going on here today, my friends. So, but I want to talk about this House Resolution 719. That is the honoring the life and legacy of Charlie James Kirk. That passed on September 19th, about a week ago. It passed 310 yays, 58 nays, and 38, I guess those were just presents. Basically, people who just abstained, just said that they were present or whatever. And I want to talk about this a little bit because this resolution was designed to condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And not only that, but to condemn political violence as a whole. We're at a point, in fact, I talked about this on the Todd Talk today. We're at a point that this nation is dealing with some heavy things. It shows up in our politics, But this runs much deeper. And I know some of our hosts touched on this last week. I know John Crane touched on this even yesterday, that politics is downstream of culture. That culture is really downstream from worldview. And it's how we look at the world. It's how we look at the meaning of life, the reason that we're here, whether there is or is not a God. Those things shape our worldview. Our worldview shapes our culture, and our cultural perspective shapes our politics. So I think you've got to trace this all the way back to our worldview. And we have diametrically opposed worldviews in this country. Now, it's interesting here in this great nation. You know, we've been referred to or called a melting pot here in this society, in this culture. And there's a lot of good things that can come from having different types of people in a country, right? A lot of countries don't have this. You can have a lot of diversity of thought and ways of dealing with things, which is a good thing. It can be a good thing. But differences just because the sake of being different isn't necessarily good. And it's also not good if our differences take us not just from, somewhat, I guess, morally equivalent perspectives on just doing things differently. That's different than saying, here is someone who does something that's abject, that's just objectively evil or not good, or that is morally or ethically wrong, whatever, right? So it's just difference in and of itself is not a necessarily good or bad thing. It's what are those differences? Is the differences between the approach or the worldview, is one of those things clearly superior? If it is, if something is true, for example, you want the society, you want culture, your entire culture to accept this, regardless of what maybe the subculture is. You would like all people to accept the truth. In fact, the mission of this program, my friends, for those of you that have listened for some time, you may have heard me say this, but the mission of this program is to help others hear and receive truth. I come at this each and every day from a perspective of a Bible-believing Christian who believes in conservative principles and values. Some of those principles, conservative principles and values, I think some of them clearly have their roots in biblical teachings. Others, I think you could potentially tie to, and some are just, they're not spoken about in the Bible. There are some things that the Bible doesn't tell us every detail and facet. The Bible doesn't tell you how, for example, to unclog a drain in the bathroom, right? Or to unclog a drain in the kitchen. That's not the point. But there are some things when we're talking about worldviews and values, right and wrong, the moral code, that comes from God. So some of that stuff is built directly upon, conservative values are built directly upon biblical values. Some of them are just things that we think, that we've learned through living this side of heaven, that we've decided that those are values that we want to pursue. And then you've got another side, another worldview that's out there today that's becoming more and more prevalent, that is encouraging and celebrating political violence, which I would say to the sane people out there, regardless ultimately of what your worldview is, your religion is, reasonable people should be able to agree and say, this is unacceptable. This must be condemned. And so most of them did vote, 310 of them in the House, to pass this resolution. But there were 38 who didn't want to take a stand and 58 who said no. What were they saying no to? Well, they said that they don't want to lionize an individual with whom they find a troubling ideology or worldview. So a lot of these leftists, these Democrats who voted against this resolution, which again condemned Charlie Kirk's assassination, condemned political violence as a whole, honored the life of Charlie Kirk, honored his family, honored his faith, and at its core calls on Americans to reject violence and to recommit to civility. That was the general purpose of that legislation, and they voted no against that. Now, I try to be sometimes out of an abundance of caution and to try to be, to extend the olive branch as much as I can to those on the other side of the aisle. I can understand to a point not wanting to, to honor a person whose ideology I vehemently disagree with. But if you look at what the purpose of this is, and look, I know everything can be politicized, but surely we could all put aside even the ideology for a moment, even the belief system for a moment, and say whatever happens in America next, wherever we go politically, whatever the next political battle looks like, it cannot look like this. Surely we could all agree on that, but we can't. We can't agree on that. So this condemns assassinations and all political violence. It commends law enforcement for swift action. It extends condolences to Eric Kirk and the family, honors the life of Charlie Kirk, his legacy as a Christian, as a family man, as a defender of liberty, calls Americans to reject violence, engage respectfully, and uphold shared values. I want to talk a little bit more about this. And really, this show's 10 years old. And you go back to the early days of this show, our position, if you will, if you're, our slogan, our tagline is conservative, not bitter. So from day one, I have extended an olive branch. You don't have, listen, when you engage in this sort of activity like I've done, when you engage in the sort of activity Charlie Kirk engaged in, where you're talking about ideas, when you know there's going to be fierce opposition, there's going to be heated debates and disagreements. You might be called names, you might be maligned, and those sorts of things. You expect that, and that comes with the territory. But there's a line that this resolution is trying to clearly draw that says, look, we gotta not hate one another. And at its core, that's what conservative, not bitter means. And I remember, in fact, the tagline of this program, I was I guess the byproduct or the consequence, not the consequence, but the outcome of what I had learned from a dear friend of mine who passed away earlier this year tragically. His name was Brad Justice, but I worked with Brad. He had a marketing firm here in Central Indiana, helping clients all over the place. But I worked with him for a while, and I learned a lot about marketing. And one of the things I realized, and I learned from Brad, was it's important to clearly identify who you are, what you believe, and how you're different from the crowd. And there's a lot of screamers out there. There's a lot of screamers, my friends, on the right too. I'm not saying, listen, the bullets are flying in one direction. But I'm saying there's a lot of people out there who are, I'm not blaming them for the temperature. I'm saying I come at this from a perspective of I want to persuade people. I want to persuade. I want to give people the tools to be more persuasive in their personal interactions with other people. And that doesn't happen when the temperature gets too high. Now, it doesn't mean that we shy away from it. Too many people here, or some people here, conservative, not bitter, and think that there's no fight in that. Friends, I'm going to tell you a story real quick. Oh boy, this is a little embarrassing for me, but you know that I played football, if you listen to this program, at Butler University. In fact, I got the Butler shirt on here today, back 25 years ago. And I was a little guy, one of the smaller guys on the team, played defensive back, but I always thought I was a linebacker trapped in the body of a defensive back. And I remember I had two speeds, on and off. Like there was no, it was either 100% or zero. I was either engaged in the play or I was on the sideline, right? And I remember I had a teammate one time. He told me he was a receiver. His name was Kyle. I won't tell you his last name, but I liked him a lot. Called me Huffy Combs back. I didn't even know. This is how distant I was from pop culture. He kept calling me Huffy Combs. I had no idea where that came from until later on. But he said, man, Huffy Combs, I don't want to go up against you in a drill. And I said, what are you talking about, man? He's like, you go too hard. He's like, you're too rough. You apparently when I tackled him, I pinched him. I said, When I'm grabbing whatever I can grab to get a hold of you, to get you down. I'm not trying to pinch you. How in the world do you even do that on a football field at high speed? Anyway, and he made a comment where he said, man, he made a comment and said that it was dirty. And it really bothered me, to be honest, because I was not, between the whistles, if it was legal, I was going to engage in it. But at the whistle, I'll pick you up or whatever. Didn't really talk trash. In fact, I was pretty quiet back out there on the field in those days. But after talking with him, I realized what he meant was you're just too intense. And I remember starting many a fight, several fights not intentionally, just out of intensity. So I just say that to say to you, conservative not bitter doesn't mean there's not a time to fight, to be intense or anything like that. What conservative not bitter means is that I don't hate the people who are opposite of me. I'm not bitter about the ground that we've lost in this country over the generations, over the decades that have moved us further to the left. I want civility. I was raised in a Union Democrat home. I don't mind it getting a little bit dicey or a little bit intense in our conversations, but there's no way it should ever get anywhere near the level that it's gotten today with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, with the attempted assassination of President Trump. And this is something that all people should be able to get behind, but they can't. More to say on this, my friends, but want to tell you here that My Pillow is excited to tell you that they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back in stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. My Pillow bed sheets are only $29.88, any style, any color, any size, even king sizes. Those are regular $119.98, by the way. Once they're gone, they're gone. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a six-piece My Towel set for only $39.98. That's $30 off the regular price of $69.98. And for the first time ever, and the only time, My Pillow is going to offer you their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens are $17.98, kings $19.98. Friends, all that can be found at mypillow.com. mypillow.com. Promo code Todd's going to get you those special prices. Again, mypillow.com. Promo code Todd. All right, let's go back to this discussion here about Charlie Kirk and what he did, because there's some things I want to say. I've said before, I don't follow anybody. How do I want to say this? I used to listen to Rush every day. Rush was the standard bearer. Rush, to me, was the greatest who's ever done this by a country mile. Charlie Kirk was incredibly effective as well, kind of the next generation, if you will, of what Rush did. And it evolved. Charlie Kirk evolved this into something that what was effective at getting outside of the conservative bubble. And it was more proactive. It wasn't just, I'm going to talk about something all day and then let people come in if they're interested. I'm going to go out to them. And that's what he did. And he made it personal, and he handled it well. He modeled civil discourse. I don't care what people say. He modeled civil discourse. It's right there for anyone to say. Yes, there were times he got a little bit fiery. Yes, there were times he did that. But so what? It was just an intense discussion. It's pretty rare from what I saw. But I say all this to say I didn't follow it all the time, so there might be things that I don't know about, but I've seen a lot of his stuff, a lot of his debates on campuses and so forth, a lot of his conversations, and very civil. And he's founded Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old. It's just remarkable accomplishments. And, this, in looking at the success he's had, and looking at the needs out there, this has impacted the way I think about the program that we produce every day, too. We've done this, as I've said, for 10 years. And we're deliberately doing some things a little bit different. I'm starting to. I don't know specifically all the things, but I do know that we are in perilous times. And I do know that in order for us to escape these perilous times, or to overcome them, or to defeat the side that's perpetrating these evils and that sort of stuff, in order for that to happen, we have to engage. And I think sometimes, my thinking is we talk about the issues of the day, and then we use those as springboards to talk about things that are even more important and that are rooted in truth. The kind of the underlying principles that lead us to some of the ways of thinking in the conservative movement. And that's been kind of the what I want to say, the roadmap for the show each and every day. But I've realized in seeing what's out there and how dire the circumstances are that I've got to find ways to break outside of that. All of us do, and whatever particular, whatever our sphere of influence is, and to engage more proactively, not just try to drive people to the program, but get out there more and do some different things. So we're working on some things here. In fact, you might see us do more interviews, and that's what I want to talk about in the next segment. You may have seen an individual who's running for Congress. Her name is Shelby Campbell. She's running for Congress in Michigan. I'm going to play this quick soundbite here. She's on TikTok. It's a weird TikTok handle. I think she took this video down. Oh, it's Soup for Change. SOUP, Soup, the number 4 change. That's where she is on TikTok. So, that we've talked about some things on this program where people have been celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk or mocking whatever, that sort of thing. She took this is a 9-second video, or it might have been long. Someone's had to record this because I think she might have taken it down. I don't know that. It was up last night when I looked. But I reached out to this lady, and she emailed me back. I didn't think she would. I emailed her it was late. It was, 1 a.m, something like that. Emailed her and said, hey, I know what you said some things about Charlie Kirk. I'd like to have you clear that up on the show. And I told her a little bit about us, and she said she would love to do that. We'll see where this goes. My point is, I'm going to play this real quick. This is
bad does it hurt?
Sort of
the
thing.
Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you guys can't get your person back.
I hope that's a sound that she's used there and not her own laugh. But she said, the Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you guys can't get your guy back, referring to Charlie Kirk. She says, how bad does it hurt is how she starts it. How bad does it hurt? The Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you can't get your person back. And then she had that demonic laugh that hopefully was just a sound that she piped in. But we're going to see if she'll talk with us. And those are the sorts of things. I think we've got to address this head on. I got some other ideas as well, but I'm up against the clock. Got to take a break, my friends. You're listening here to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I want to play this soundbite again. It's a short clip. Again, this is a person in Michigan running for the 13th district, which is in Detroit. Her name is Shelby Campbell. She made this post. I don't know if it's still up. It was last night. I looked again this morning. I couldn't find it. I found it. Someone else had recorded it, and they've reshared it, whatever. But this is what we have. This is the clip that she put together. It's 9 seconds. You got to listen fast. I'm going to shut up and play it now.
How bad does it hurt? The Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you guys can't get your person back.
Okay, you get the idea. How bad does it hurt? The Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you can't get your person back. Talking about Jimmy Kimmel, who was suspended. I've got stuff in the stack of stuff for that as well. I don't know that I'll be able to get to that, but basically, before I left, Jimmy Kimmel had been suspended for comments he made about Trump, particularly related to the death of Charlie Kirk. And that's been discussed. But ultimately, the comments I thought that was the most reprehensible, he effectively compared Charlie Kirk's death. I don't even feel comfortable talking about this, but to mourning the loss of a goldfish. Now, he was saying Trump was acting like he's mourning the loss of a goldfish, not the loss of a good friend. So you could say he was mocking Trump, but nonetheless, that's what he was out for or suspended for. They've brought him back. Sinclair and Nexstar have decided not to carry the program. I think it's about 20 or 25% of the ABC syndicate network that's not going to be showing Kimmel's show. Anyway, that's going on. So she's celebrating that. She's celebrating that by posting this. So I reached out to her. I won't share. I try to not do it, but in general, I saw this. Again, this is in continuation of what we talked about last segment, which was one of the things, the impact as I think about Charlie Kirk's legacy and what he's done and how effective he's been. It's just encouraged me to do things a little bit differently. Sometimes maybe a lot differently. And listen, for those of you, every once in a while, it's 1 in 1,000 or every 10,000. Someone will say this is you're trying to be an opportunist. I mean, this is crazy to me. Well, I'm a guy with a microphone, right? I started this in a bedroom closet 10 years ago. I'm trying to do things more effectively. This nation is hanging in the balance. We are in a cold civil war that has had flashes of heat recently with this violence. This has to be addressed immediately. We're in great need of spiritual revival in this great nation. We're in need of Jesus. This nation needs to return to Jesus immediately. We need to do that as individuals, and we need to have the boldness to share that with other people. And people hate the truth. They hate it. That the opposition hates the truth. They like living in darkness, and when you shine a light, listen, not because I'm special or anything else, and anyone else who does this, but by speaking the truth, you immediately get enemies because they hate the truth. They like living in darkness. They love their sin. They don't want to change. That they are consumed by it. They are enslaved by their sin. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be differences of opinion on certain things, but we've gotten to the point where that's a legitimate thing that I have to say on this program. And so when I look at the state of things and the direness of the situation, and I look at how effective Charlie Kirk was, which I always knew that he was, but in seeing just the level of impact, the outpouring towards him, but both unfortunately of the hate, but also of the love towards him and the honor and respect. And by the way, this resolution should have been unanimously passed. I don't see what the big problem here is. You don't have to agree with his ideas and his worldview and ideology, but my goodness, surely we can agree that this stuff cannot be allowed to happen. And so, as I've thought about this, and I know, I go back to even my own life. I mean, I was not raised. I was always taught biblical values, but I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I didn't know anything really about the Bible. I had two wonderful parents, but that wasn't part of their life. And I didn't know anything. I think I went to vacation Bible school a couple times as a kid. And I think I went to, I went to weekday religious ed, which was something that you could voluntarily go to in school when I was a kid. I know some school districts still have this, but you had to go off the school premises. We went to this little relocatable trailer, and we would study the Bible for 30 minutes a week or whatever it was. It was on a Tuesday or a Thursday or some such thing. And I remember learning the Bible there for the first time. I remember the Gideons coming to our school and handing out these little bitty red Bibles. And I remember as a kid reading that at night. I remember praying. Now, of course, my prayers were, God, give me this, God, do this for me, God, that. But I didn't know anything. And that sticks with me because I think that I know that there are people who are embracing this evil that's out there, just completely. They have decided in their hearts they're going to pursue and chase after this evil. They're going to defend evil. They're going to defend darkness. They're going to mock death. They're going to do all this sort of stuff. They're going to say terrible things about Charlie Kirk or whoever. They're going to say terrible things about you. They're going to try to tear down God. They're going to be just all these sorts of things. And there are certainly those people, but there are people who just genuinely don't know. And how are they going to know if we don't tell them? How are they going to know? And I don't mean we just hear this program. I mean collectively, people who are interested in sharing messages of truth that ultimately direct people to the cross of Christ. Truth about just the moral order of the universe, the design of the universe, some of these principles that we all need to know. How will they know if we don't tell them? And how will they be told if they're not listening or viewing or congregating in areas that we normally do it? And so that's been Charlie Kirk's impact on me. That's been, and I've been rethinking some of the fact. If you go to our website, you'll see that it's different than it was. You'll see eventually in the not too distant future us doing some things that we haven't done before, not to steal thunder or not to just to learn and to adapt and to realize that the stakes are high and that it's long past time for us to do everything in our power. Let the chips fall where they may. I don't know where we'll succeed or where we'll fail and everything else. But the idea is to take the message of truth and deliver it in such a way, whatever that looks like. Having conversations like hopefully I'll have with this person running for Congress. We'll see what happens. I just wanted to tell you about that to let you know and give you a heads up. Reach out to her office and tell them. Go on Todd's show. Tell them that Todd mentioned that she said she said she would be very interested in doing this. She put me in touch with her campaign manager. So we'll see where it goes. But I think these are the things you're going to start seeing here on the program. Us maybe adding some things, improving some things, changing some approaches to find ways to reach people where they are. I would encourage you to do the same as well. The stakes are high, and we need to do everything we can to deliver this message. So, and I have Charlie Kirk to thank for teaching me that. And so we want to get better at doing that because we want all people to hear and receive truth. Not that we have it all figured out here, my friends. I want to say that too. I know it's tempting to think that we do. I know that it is. But I don't have it all figured out. But I do know this. There are things that are true that have been revealed to us, and it is imperative that we speak those things to the next generation for all ears who are interested in truth, because if we don't speak and proclaim the truth is replaced by a lie. It creates a void. When the truth is not spoken, when the truth is not adhered to, when the truth is not respected, lies come in and fill the void. That's what's happened in this culture over the course of many, many decades now, and that has to be stopped and reversed. So, more on this, my friends, as I get to the end of this second segment. You know, one of the biggest challenges for conservatives like us is finding ways to ensure our values align with everything we do, including how we invest. That's why I love what the team at 4-8 Financial is doing. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that do not align with your faith and your values, so we're not funding things that go completely against what we believe in. Plus, they do all the heavy lifting for us, helping align our investments with our purpose and goals. And the best part is that they help you find out if your current investments reflect your values. All you have to do is go to 48financial.com/Todd. Again, 48financial.com/Todd. Take the quick assessment. I did it. You can do it too. 48 Financial, because your money should work for your values. Quick time out, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Third and final segment. I mentioned, that we've been out basically the last week. We spent some time in Glacier National Park. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. What's the name of the road, Oz? Road to the Sun? Is that it? Road to the Rising Sun? Something like that. It's one of the... There we go. Going to the Sun Road. Going to the Sun Road. It's a beautiful drive. It's not easy to get to Glacier. It's remote to begin with. The park is massive. We stayed in a little town called Whitefish, which was a nice little town. I know Oz enjoyed that. The kids enjoyed that. Just a beautiful, beautiful place. Two things I'll tell you. Number one, I'll tell you just, I guess, a quick little summary of what we did. So we go to Whitefish. We stay with my brother and our sister-in-law for a few days. The kids love their aunt and uncle. They drove out there. They stopped at the Badlands and different places like that. We flew into Kalispell, if that's how you say it. Spent time at Whitefish, and then, of course, went to the park. Beautiful. The Going to the Sun Road, as I said, absolutely beautiful. Some of the most beautiful views I think I've ever seen. That drive reminded me in parts, it's different. So if you've done this, I don't want you to think that I'm saying it's the same, but some of that drive was treacherous. I mean, you're going up the side of the mountain and you can see down, I don't know how far, all the way down, straight down to the river at the bottom of the valley there. Reminded me a little bit, not exactly, it was much different. In fact, I would say in a way more treacherous than the haul that we took up Pikes Peak several years ago. Not as high, but also straight down. I would say it's more straight down. More guardrails too, but nonetheless, just a beautiful, beautiful place. Went on a longer, relatively long hike, especially when it's up at, you're gaining elevation and so forth. Just beautiful, beautiful things. We saw a brown bear. I had wanted to see, when I told the kids before we left, I want to see a brown bear. They did not want to hear anything about that. Of course, they're envisioning that they thought old Dad wanted to see one face-to-face on the trails. That's not what I wanted to see. What happened is exactly what I wanted to see, which was look at a bear from the vehicle as we were driving through the park, and we saw a bear. It was a younger bear, but hefty fella. He was eating some berries off the trees, crossing this stream and so forth. But just a beautiful, beautiful park. If you get the chance, our national parks are unbelievable in this country. The natural beauty, especially in the ones out west. We've been to several, but not anywhere near all of them. In fact, some of the most beautiful ones, the biggest ones, we have not yet been to. But I would say Glacier National Park is for lots of reasons, is a great place to go. But again, to go there, you want to have an interest in the outdoor experience of Montana. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to do. I'm not minimizing it, because it's part of what makes it special is that it is kind of untouched in a lot of ways, meaning it's remote and so forth. But it's beautiful. For those of you who have been, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't been, I just wanted to tell you that was a great experience, and if you can ever go, it's definitely something worth seeing. I'll also tell you on the way home, I mentioned that my brother and sister-in-law drove, we flew, and had no problem getting out to Montana. But on the way back, it's a tiny airport in Kalispell. I got stopped at security because apparently when the ticket was booked, the name was entered incorrectly. This was actually not something that we did when the ticket was secured. This was something, I think, in the airline's system, and I couldn't get through security. So I got sent over to the desk of the airline, and there was about a 20 or 30 minute period where I wasn't convinced I was getting home that day. But after some back and forth and realization as to what happened, the lady at the counter told me it's the same exact thing that happened the day before. Something in the system is basically putting a second name before some of these tickets. And so my name wasn't what matched my ID, so I had to go back. They got it fixed, and I got on the aircraft. But there was a short period of time that I did not think I was going to be on the aircraft coming home. But we made it home. I've missed you. Listen, I love doing this show. Vacations are good and much needed. For those of you that work a lot, that like what you do professionally, let me remind you that those moments of stepping away, turning things off for a while can give you perspective, can give you fresh approaches to things, can help you recharge, rest, improve in ways just by taking that time off. And not to mention the people that you love the most get to have a little bit more time with you, or I got to have more time with them, and I absolutely loved every second of it. I was, you didn't want to leave that beautiful place, but I was also ready to come home because I like this. I love this. If you love what you do, they say that you'll never work a day in your life, and that's there is some truth in that. I mean, I bust my hump over here. Don't misunderstand me. There's a lot goes on behind the scenes, but let me tell you this. This is something that I love, that I've been looking forward to getting back. So it is good to be back, my friends. So it's Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We will continue next week, my friends. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. SDG.